when you are in medical school.
The patients get scared, don't they? The patients get scared.
All right. A very good evening to you. Welcome to this wonderful discussion. And today, things are going nuclear because, you know, we understand nuclear. First of all, nuclear family is very important. But when you talk about nuclear, what does it mean? Because we know nuclear can be applied in energy sector, nuclear energy. Now, there are other sectors. For example, in the medical field, there's some usage of nuclear. When you go to the health, apart from health rather, when you go to the agricultural side, there are uses of nuclear. So this is quite a critical component that holds so much potential that could change the country. And just to bring you up to date, the month of October is quite an important month. Now, October is Energy Awareness Month. Okay, so think about energy and think about nuclear as a source of energy. October is also Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Think about cancer awareness and the application of nuclear in matters of oncology. October is also Food Security Month. And we ask ourselves, Kenya as a country, are we food secure? Well, no. How can you utilize nuclear to bring food security in our country? And lastly, every third week of October is Nuclear Science Week. And this is an international, broadly observed week celebrating and focusing on nuclear, and the international community celebrates this. So today we are having a conversation. We are dissecting all this to help us understand the potential of nuclear, all things nuclear. I have a heavy panel, trust you me. Heavy. So starting us off, of course, on my immediate left, we have this gentleman, Dr. Anthony Nderitu. He's a senior specialist, consultant, clinical and radiation oncologist at Kenyatta National Hospital. Sir, good to see you, looking sharp as always. And I'll be looking forward to take a look at the issue or application of nuclear in the medical field, which is very important. Thank you for making time to be here. Up next, of course, we have Mr. Isaac Mundia. Sir, looking sharp as always, especially for this discussion. Deputy Director, Inspections and Enforcement, Kenya Nuclear Regulatory Authority. Then next to him, we have the man who holds the keys. I don't know whether you have the nuclear football, as you're told most of the times, but we have Justice Wabuyako, Acting CEO, Nuclear Power and Energy Agency, NUPEA. Thank you very much for being here. And lastly, we have academia represented, because it's very good to understand things and how we can mobilize application of nuclear from the generations that we have which are going through the academic system. So we have Professor Elijah Mwangi.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for making time. Professor Elijah Mwangi is the Director, Institute of Nuclear Science and Technology at the University of Nairobi. All right, so gentlemen, we also have somebody joining us on Zoom. And you know, this is the beauty about power, because you're talking about nuclear power. It powers such interactions. So all the way from Eldoret, we have Professor Miriam Kinyo, who's a mutation breeding expert, School of Agriculture and Biotechnology, University of Eldoret. Welcome to the program, Professor Kinyo, and thank you for making time to be here. So, without wasting much time, gentlemen, because we have an hour or less, and we are quite many, I want us to understand and unpack this particular topic. So, I'll start with you, Professor Elijah. I mean, from academia but simplified, yeah? Help me understand, what is nuclear? What is this nuclear that we hear about time and again?
Okay. Thank you very much. I will try to explain in a simple way, and I will start with atoms. We know these are the smallest particles you can have in matter. If you look at an atom, it has got, at the center, it's got a nucleus. On the sides, you have got electrons. At the center, in that nucleus, you have the neutron and the proton. That's well established from high school sciences. Now, the interaction between those protons and the neutrons is what we call nuclear science. That interaction can lead to several things. One of them is production of radiation. Another one is that you can actually production of a generation of heat energy, okay? Because those atoms can actually split or can actually be combined with others. And so it means that the study of nuclear science is the study of interaction in those particles in the nucleus, the neutrons and the protons.
Wow.
And this has got very important applications. One of them is that we're able to get some radiation which can be used for good applications. Another one is that power or that heat that is generated can be used to generate electricity.
Okay.
Another one, which is negative, and many people are aware about this, is that can actually use it as the basis of developing weapons for mass destruction. That is nuclear weapons. Okay. But of course, we are here to look at the peaceful applications of nuclear science. Okay. And in this country, we don't venture into those type of technologies whereby we are looking at weapons.
All right. Yes. Prof, I'm glad this is sort of, I can't call it a cathartic moment, but it reminds me back in school.
Yes.
You're being taught about protons.
Yes.
That's quite incredible. So that interaction, it holds so much potential and different applications.
Yes.
Both good and bad, as life is with majority of things, which is very critical.
Oh, yes.
Now we've established what this nuclear is and the potential it has.
Yes.
That brings out the question majority of Kenyans will ask. Now, what are we doing about it as a country? And this brings us to the conversation about nuclear and Kenya. And as a country, what have we been doing? So, Justice, I know you head NUPEA, and it's one of those organizations that are very chilled and low-key. It's not in our conversations like the KPLCs of this world, but you hold so much potential. Bring us up to date. What has been Kenya's journey on matters nuclear, especially on the energy front?
Thank you very much, Noah, and thank you for having me. First of all, let me just set the background by saying that NUPEA is a state corporation within the Ministry of Energy, charged with the function of guiding the country towards developing the first nuclear power plant. There are also other mandates in regard to research and development and capacity building for the energy sector. But coming to your point, NUPEA is actually focused in getting the country move forward to build the first nuclear power plant. According to our schedule, we are supposed to start constructing the first nuclear power plant in 2027, and that will be operationalized or unveiled. It was formed in 2010. We've worked with the government in, first of all, developing the regulatory framework. Through NUPEA, Nuclear Power and Energy Agency, we were able to work with Parliament to have the Nuclear Regulatory Act enacted, which established the Kenya Nuclear Regulatory Authority, which is the national regulator of all nuclear activities in the country. Also, NUPEA has carried out preliminary studies or pre-feasibility studies of the nuclear power program. This is to see how the nuclear power program will actually be delivered in this country.
Okay.
Along the same, we've actually also carried out what is called the strategic environmental and social assessment exercise, which goes around to look at the helicopter position of how this nuclear power program will be delivered.
Okay.
This is to understand, is the country having the economics to deliver it?
Okay.
Is the society in tune with it? and the issues of the environment. This is done at a global level, and this involves engaging Kenyans to hear their views, what they have about the program. So those are the main activities that we have undertaken.
Okay.
And we've also developed a 15-year strategic plan which will enable the country be able to achieve that objective.
All right.
Yes.
Very important. We have quite a plan already.
Yes.
2027, that's when we are having sort of a hard start.
Yes.
To everything. You're saying you've done pre-feasibility studies.
Yes.
To tell where this will be located, the first nuclear power plant.
Yes.
And that brings out, because there are fears. And I want to come to the regulator, because regulation is very important. It sets the tone, especially on matters nuclear energy. We've seen some cases, globally, that when things go haywire, especially on matters nuclear, it takes quite a long time to sort of do away with the ramifications of that. So, Isaac, as the regulator, and I know you're in inspection and enforcement, it means you're not laughing with anybody, especially in UPEA. You inspect them and make sure that everything is enforced. As a country, and where we are even globally, are we in a position to be able by 2027 to come up with a nuclear power plant? And can you guarantee Kenyans safety?
Well, thank you, Noah, for inviting KNRA, Kenya Nuclear Regulatory Authority, to be part of this panel discussion during this nuclear week in this month of October. What I want to assure you, efforts have been put in place to ensure safety when the nuclear power program is going on. For example, my colleague, my counterpart, Mr. Justice Obuyabo, has mentioned the government was able to enact a new regulatory act, the Nuclear Regulatory Act in 2020, which now repealed the previous existing regulatory act, which was the Radiation Protection Act. And the act now has given the country, the government, a very good provision of ensuring safety in application of not only nuclear in the nuclear power production, but also application of nuclear and atomic energy in all sectors of the economy. Currently, we are also working together with our stakeholders, the UPEA and others in the government, in the academia, in the industrial sector, so to develop regulations, the requirements that are necessary to ensure safety and secure use of the nuclear power program in Kenya, and also application of nuclear and atomic energy in the country.
All right.
Yes.
And that's very important, because when a sector is regulated, then there is a level of accountability regards to what is going on in that sector, especially for nuclear, that we haven't explored as a country, and we're going into this in regards to energy. But I know, Daktari, in the medical field, you guys have been using nuclear as some of the interventions. So when the protons are interacting and creating radiation, it's very useful in the medical world. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, thank you very much for inviting us to talk about health. And especially for the general public, they don't know where nuclear comes in health, and especially in the area of cancer treatment. And not just cancer treatment, radiation actually comes all the way from diagnosis of many conditions. You know, we use X-rays to diagnose some things. We do X-rays to see some infections, pneumonia in the chest. Those are the simple uses of radiation in diagnosis. We have other specialized areas, what we call the CT scans. We also have more specialized ones. More recently, we have what we call PET scans, which help to diagnose cancers and also other conditions. In terms of, if I go more specifically to cancer management, apart from diagnosis, most cancers, especially what we call the solid tumors, you'll find more than 70% to 80% will need radiation in their treatment. You know, cancer has many treatments: surgery, you have chemotherapy, you have radiotherapy. And the radiotherapy is a whole new area that a lot of people would not understand. That is the use of nuclear technology. You have the radiotherapy itself, and then you have where you use the radionuclides. And those are when you're treating, like I said, you treat with chemotherapy, but up to 80% of them will require radiotherapy. Okay. Radiotherapy is the use of radiation to kill cancer cells. Meaning, if you don't incorporate that aspect of treatment, your treatment will not be complete. There are some cancers which the backbone of treatment is radiation, and that cuts across the whole spectrum, from adults to children. Also, in terms of monitoring treatment, how effective is the treatment that you're doing? You use that technology to evaluate how your treatments are going on. If we go to other related areas, and I know there are experts who are in that, in the food production, monitoring nutrition status of children, also nuclear energy is used in that area.
Okay.
Yes.
That's incredible how it has multiple applications. And later on, we'll come and talk about the issue of cost in regards to how proactive, as you get proactive in matters nuclear, will that mean that cancer treatment, will get a little bit less expensive? Because we understand one of the major impacts that a lot of Kenyan households are suffering from, like one illness can wipe away family savings, and we've seen those cases. So in regards of lowering costs, especially treating cancer, maybe with nuclear interventions, what are some of those that can be made to make sure that we lower that cost? But we'll come to that discussion. I want us to cross over all the way to in Eldoret. Professor Miriam Kinyua. Miriam, when I talk about nuclear, I don't know where food comes in. I find it very difficult. For energy, I understand generally. But where does nuclear and food security meet?
Okay. Thank you, Noah, and hi everyone, and good evening, viewers. Are you hearing me?
Loud and clear, Professor.
You can hear me. Okay. So I'm really happy to join in this discussion. I am a plant breeder applying mutation techniques, and mutation techniques use nuclear energy. We've just been explained how nuclear energy comes about, and we've known nuclear energy to be misused for bombs and other destructive ways, but there's also a good side of using nuclear energy, especially in agriculture. We are food insecure, and not only that, we are also challenged by diseases and pests, and of course yield is normally not that high, drought tolerance. So you've asked me, so how does nuclear energy now come up with agriculture? Many of us ask ourselves that question. As a breeder, I'm sure my fellow breeders who haven't been exposed to mutation techniques also have similar questions. When I was exposed to application of nuclear techniques in crop improvement, it was a wonder. It was amazing. I mean, you just look at it and you wonder, how does that happen? And how I made it is that I looked at what others were doing. I was invited for a course on mutation techniques. And when I went through the course, I realized that mutation techniques is a very good way of improving crops. How does that happen? In nature, we have what we call mutants, a deviation from the wild type, from the normal. that deviated species or that deviated plant or animal, as much as we call it a mutant, it might have good traits, and that's what we take advantage of. We select the ones which have been mutated, or they have been transformed, they've been changed, and the change is useful. For example, like the way Daktari has explained that we use energy, nuclear energy, like X-rays, gamma rays. So when we pass the ray through the either seed or cuttings, or you can whatever plant part that you want to use, there's a change that happens because of that energy. Now, when you plant the crop, you're able to select the desirable plant. And normally, we do not want to change many characters. Theoretically, you can change any character that you wish, theoretically. So because of that, then you set out, you say, okay, I want drought tolerance. Then you pass the energy through the plant or through the plant part, either seed or any other plant part that you are going to use. And then you plant out that plant part that has already been changed. Okay. And you look for drought tolerance. In the process, you also look for drought tolerance plus high yields. Or if it is disease, like for our program, we have wheat, and that is called Eldo Mavuno from the University of Eldoret. How we developed it, there was a new disease in the world, in the whole world, that was called stem rust, okay. UG99. That was in 2012, 2013. And we decided, let's use nuclear techniques, and already got enchanted by application of nuclear techniques. So okay. I decided, why not use it? And remember, this problem was worldwide. Everybody was running around and feeling we are threatened. Sorry.
Sorry.
Okay, sorry. So that's how, in short, that's how we use nuclear techniques to develop varieties. We have wheat, cassava, and potatoes.
Okay, that's incredible. And I'm glad you've been very detailed in regards to how you can utilize, nuclear, be intentional, isolate some characters in a crop, especially right now with the change in weather. You can say make it a little bit, drought resistant and whatnot. Now, this brings me to the question, Prof. Since all these benefits are well outlined, especially in the books, because there's normally a challenge transferring book knowledge to application knowledge.
Yes.
For the longest time that you've taught this issue of nuclear, and as you've been learning from primary to secondary school, all that, how can you transition into further application and it being closer to Kenyans and even Kenyan students' applications of nuclear?
Yeah, we can even come much closer. I will continue with examples given in the medical field. We can, given the proper chance and the proper manpower, produce radioisotopes, which definitely today we import from countries that produce them. It is not difficult for Kenya to go into those programs and produce radioisotopes. So this application is not just for power, but it can also be radioisotopes. Okay, and that is an area that is quite wide, and it's an area that can take Kenya very far, because those radioisotopes, as the doctor has here said, that we have cancer cases that are actually treated with nuclear radiation applications.
Yes. We are not yet producing radioisotopes within the country?
No, we import them.
We import radioisotopes.
Yes.
So that's part of the cost problem that we have.
Yes.
Is it something that is possible to be produced within the country?
Yes.
It can be done. Kenya can do it. given the right conditions, because we have got young generation who are ready to adopt this technology, and if you're able to cooperate with the producers of these radioisotopes, it can also be done in this country. Yes.
Actually, maybe I should add on what Professor said. In NUPEA, we have a program where we are working with Korea to have a research reactor. Through this research reactor, which we already have identified land, we have been allocated land in Konza City, and we intend to have a such reactor there. And these radioisotopes that Prof is talking about can be actually generated from that research reactor. And as Dr. Arya said, because by importing these radioisotopes, and you know their half-life can also be affected by the time it's brought into the country. If you're manufacturing them there, then you have a longer time that you can utilize them before they lose their value.
Regulator, are we ready to start this? How soon? Because I know the nuclear power plant is 2027. I don't know, for these isotopes, how soon can we begin?
Even today, currently in our country now, we have 2 accelerators. We normally call them a medical cyclotron. There is one in Aga Khan Hospital, and one which was set up by the Ministry of Health in the Kenyatta University Teaching and Referral Hospital, which is able now to produce fluorine-18, which is a radioisotope used in diagnosis. Normally used in what Dr. Arya has mentioned, the current regulatory framework has been able to ensure safety production of the fluorine-18.
All right.
The 2 facilities. So
okay.
We are ready for that.
All right. That's incredible. We are ready for that. That's the key word. We want to take a short break right here. And then when we come back, I'll talk to Dr. Arya and see whether these might even halve the cost of cancer treatment in the country. That is the role of nuclears and how actually nuclear impacts each and every sector of different sectors of the economy and also our lives. We take a short break, we'll return. Remember, it's All Matters Nuclear right here on KTN News. Stay tuned.